They thought she was a kidnapper, a black mother cradling her baby in a shopping mall parking lot. Suddenly surrounded by police, guns drawn, people watching in horror, she begged them to stop, screamed that it was her own child, but the officers refused to listen. And what happened next shocked everyone, because the truth they uncovered was far darker, far more twisted than anyone could have imagined. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon, the kind of day when families filled the local mall. Kids ran through the food court with ice cream cones, and parents juggled shopping bags with sticky little hands. For Alicia Johnson, a 28-year-old black mother, it was supposed to be a simple outing. She had just finished buying diapers and baby clothes. Her 6-month-old son, Malik, strapped safely in his car seat. But as she opened the back door of her car to settle him in, she noticed 2 security guards across the lot pointing in her direction. Their walkie-talkies crackled. Their eyes didn't leave her. At first, she thought nothing of it. Maybe they were looking at someone else. Maybe she was imagining it. But within minutes, the flashing lights appeared. A squad car screeched to a halt behind her. Then another, and another. Within seconds, Alicia found herself surrounded by police, officers with hands already gripping their weapons. "Ma'am, step away from the vehicle," one of them barked. Confused, Alicia raised her hands instinctively. "What? Why? What's going on?" "Step away from the child." Her heart dropped. They thought she was kidnapping her own baby. The parking lot froze. Shoppers stopped in their tracks, phones raised, recording every moment. A white officer moved closer, gun trained steadily on her. "Ma'am," drop the baby and step back. Alicia's arms tightened protectively around Malik. "This is my son," she cried, her voice breaking. "Please, you're making a mistake." But the officers didn't listen. One of them muttered under his breath, "She fits the description." Description? Alicia's mind raced. Who could they possibly think she was? She had no criminal record, no warrants, nothing. Her legs trembled as she backed against the car, her baby cry in her arms. The crowd around her whispering, judging, recording. Then one officer shouted, "We have an eyewitness report of an abduction. Black female, mid-20s, seen leaving the store with a baby that doesn't match her." Didn't match her? The words stung deeper than the guns pointed at her. As the confrontation unfolded, little cracks in the story began to appear. First, if this was a genuine kidnapping, why were the officers so vague about the so-called eyewitness? Who had reported it? Why wasn't the supposed witness coming forward now, in front of all these cameras? Second, Alicia carried receipts in her shopping bag, proof that she had just purchased the very items in Malik's diaper bag. Third, when the officers demanded identification, Alicia immediately handed over her driver's license, her insurance card, even Malik's birth certificate, which she carried in her baby folder. But instead of easing the tension, the cops doubled down. "These could be fake," one sneered, waving the papers dismissively. The crowd murmured louder, some siding with Alicia, others whispering ugly things, suspicion spreading like wildfire. And all the while, Malik cried harder, his tiny body shaking in his mother's trembling arms. One officer suddenly lunged forward. "Take the child," he barked. "No, please." Alicia screamed, backing up desperately. The officer grabbed at Malik, but Alicia twisted away, clutching her son tighter. The struggle was short but violent. Alicia nearly fell, her screams echoing across the lot. "Stop resisting," another officer shouted. "I'm not resisting. This is my baby." But in the eyes of the crowd, in the lens of every phone recording, the image looked damning. A black woman wrestling with police, a baby crying in the middle of it all. And that was when the major twist began to take shape. Because as Alicia cried out, a man suddenly emerged from the crowd. A tall, pale man in an expensive suit. And with a voice cold as ice, he shouted, "That's my child she stole." The crowd gasped. The man stepped forward confidently, his finger pointed like a dagger. "I saw her take him. That's my son." The officers immediately shifted, their guns lowered slightly toward Alicia. Her eyes widened in shock. "What? I don't even know you." But the man's voice was steady, convincing, dripping with privilege. She snatched him from my nanny at the entrance. Thank God I caught her before she got away. The cops nodded grimly, as if everything suddenly made sense. But Alicia's heart pounded with terror. She had never seen this man before in her life. And yet, Malik's birthmark, a small crescent-shaped mark on his shoulder, was suddenly at the center of the argument, because a man smirked and said, "He has a mark on his right shoulder. Prove me wrong." The crowd gasped again. The officers looked at each other, and Alicia realized something horrifying. This wasn't random. This man knew her baby. The air was electric, thick with fear and tension. Alicia's arms tightened around Malik, her tears blinding her vision. "This is my son," she sobbed. "He's mine. Don't let him take him." But the officers were listening now, not to her cries, but to the confident, calculated words of the suited man. "Take the baby," he ordered coldly, "before she runs again." One officer moved forward, handcuffs ready. The crowd shouted, some pleading with police to stop, others egging them on. Alicia fell to her knees, clutching Malik as if the ground itself might swallow him, and as the officer's hand closed around her wrist, Alicia screamed the only word she had left. "Check the DNA. He's mine. He's my baby." The screen cuts to black. The parking lot was now a battlefield of words and fear. On one side, Alicia was screaming, clutching Malik desperately to her chest. On the other, the stranger stood tall, confident, his voice steady, weaving a story so convincing it made Alicia's own truth sound like lies. "I've been searching for my son for months," he said smoothly, his eyes glistening as if rehearsed. "She took him from me. This is not the first time she's done this. I have custody papers. I have proof." The crowd gasped. People began to murmur. "Custody papers?" Alicia's stomach dropped. She shook her head furiously. "He's lying. He's never seen my son before. Please, why won't anyone believe me?" But the cops exchanged glances, their grip on their weapons loosening as if their suspicions were confirmed. One of them muttered, "She's panicking." Classic abductor behavior. The words cut Alicia like knives, because no matter what she said, every scream for the truth, every tear she shed, seemed to only make her look more guilty. As the stranger stepped closer, Alicia noticed something odd. His eyes never lingered on Malik the way a father should. There was no tenderness, no recognition, just possession. And when Malik's cries grew louder, the man winced slightly, as though annoyed, not heartbroken. A real father would have rushed to comfort his child. A real father would have reached out with trembling hands, desperate to hold his son. But this man, he simply stood there, his expensive suit unruffled, his jaw set like a man closing a business deal. And then Alicia noticed something else. His cufflink, a silver emblem in the shape of a serpent. Her breath caught. She had seen that symbol before. 2 months earlier, Alicia remembered sitting in a courthouse, fighting a routine custody verification after Malik's birth certificate paperwork had been flagged for a clerical error. That day, she had noticed a group of men in suits watching the hearings. They weren't lawyers, they weren't social workers, but they carried the same serpent emblem on their lapels. At the time, she thought nothing of it, but now, staring at the stranger before her, the symbol gleaming under the afternoon sun, she realized it wasn't coincidence. This man wasn't father. He was something far worse. The stranger reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick envelope, sealed with a wax insignia. "These," he announced confidently, "are the legal documents proving my custody. Signed, notarized, and filed with the court. If you don't believe me, open them." The officers grabbed the envelope, flipping through the pages quickly. Their eyes widened. "Looks legitimate," one muttered. Alicia's heart pounded. "It's forged. Please, I have Malik's real birth certificate in my bag." But when she fumbled for it, one officer ripped the diaper bag from her shoulder. He dug inside, pulled out the documents, her real ones, and handed them to the stranger. The man smirked. More fakes. And just like that, the truth in her hands was twisted into a lie. By now, the crowd was split. Half of them shouted angrily at the police, demanding they return the baby to his mother. The other half whispered about Amber Alerts, child trafficking, and kidnappers who always look like regular moms. Phones were out everywhere. Every second was being recorded, live-streamed, dissected by strangers across the internet. But in the chaos, one voice cut through. A woman stepped forward, middle-aged, trembling, her voice breaking. I saw her with that baby earlier, she said, pointing at Alicia. She was inside the store, changing his diaper in the restroom. She's telling the truth. The crowd gasped. For a brief moment, hope surged in Alicia's chest. Finally, an ally. But before the woman could say more, the stranger turned his gaze on her, his expression sharp and deadly. And within seconds, she went silent. She stepped back into the crowd, eyes down, as though she had never spoken at all. Alicia's heart froze, because she had seen that look before. It wasn't just intimidation, it was power. Just as the tension reached its peak, another police car pulled up, this one different. Not local patrol, but higher authority. A man in his 50s stepped out, tall, commanding, his uniform crisp. Captain Rhodes. He strode into the scene with authority, his voice booming. What's going on here? The officers quickly explained, handing over the stranger's documents, pointing to Alicia, framing the story as though it were already fact. Rhodes skimmed the papers, his jaw tightening. He looked at Alicia, then at the stranger, then back at Malik, and then, with a chilling calmness, he said, "Take the child. Arrest a woman." The crowd erupted. Alicia screamed. Malik wailed. But Rhodes' word was law. The officers moved in, wrenching Malik from Alicia's arms as she clawed desperately to hold on. Her cries pierced the sky, echoing across the lot, recorded by 1,000 strangers. And as the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, she saw the stranger smile. Not like a father reunited with his child, but like a man who had just won a game. Alicia screamed as they dragged her toward the squad car, her wrist bound, her baby's cries fading behind her. "You're making a mistake. Please, that's my son. You'll regret this." The cameras rolled. The crowd shouted. But the police shoved her into the back seat without mercy. Through the window, Alicia locked eyes with the stranger. And for the first time, she saw it. The serpent emblem wasn't just on his cufflink. It was tattooed on his wrist, dark and unmistakable. A secret society. A conspiracy. And now they had her baby. The car door slammed shut. The screen cuts to black. The station smelled of bleach, coffee, and something heavier, something like despair. Alicia sat on a metal bench, wrists raw from the cuffs, her face streaked with tears. The officers hadn't let her call her family. They hadn't let her hold Malik. They hadn't even let her explain properly. All she had was silence. And the silence screamed louder than anything. Her baby was gone. The image of Malik's little face, his tear-streaked cheeks as strangers pulled him from her arms, replayed in her mind like a nightmare on loop. She pressed her hands together and whispered, "Please, God, don't let them take him away from me." But when the cell door creaked open, it wasn't comfort that walked in. It was Captain Rhodes. He didn't sit. He didn't even look at her like a human being. Instead, he dropped a folder onto the table. Inside, photos of Malik. Not from today. Not from her phone. These were professional, glossy photos. Malik dressed in expensive clothes, lying in a crib she didn't recognize. Her heart stopped. "Where did you get those?" she demanded, her voice trembling with rage. Rhodes leaned forward, his face unreadable. "You need to tell us the truth, Ms. Johnson. Whose child is that?" "That's my son," she screamed. "He's mine. He was born in Mercy Hospital last year. I have the birth certificate. Rhodes slammed his hand on the table. "Enough." The echo of his fist filled the room. "Your documents are fake. Your story is fabricated. And your time is running out. If you cooperate, maybe we'll make this easier for you." Easier? Her blood ran cold. This wasn't about justice. This wasn't about the law. This was something else. Rhodes leaned closer, his voice lowering to a near whisper. "There are people, Ms. Johnson, powerful people, who take an interest in children like Malik. They can give them opportunities you never could. A life of wealth, security, privilege. Isn't that what you want for your son?" Alicia's stomach turned. She could barely breathe. You mean, her voice cracked. You mean you're selling babies? Rhodes' eyes darkened. He didn't deny it. He didn't confirm it. He just said, think carefully about how you answer next, because your life depends on it. Before Alicia could speak, the cell door creaked open again. A young female officer stepped in, her eyes darting nervously between Rhodes and Alicia. Captain, we need you outside. Now. Rhodes' jaw clenched. He shot Alicia one last warning look before leaving. The door shut. The young officer glanced at the cameras in the corner of the cell. Then, with a quick motion, she slipped a folded piece of paper beneath Alicia's hand. Don't say anything. Just read this when you can, she whispered, then turned on her heel and left as though nothing had happened. Alicia's fingers shook as she unfolded the note under the table. In rushed handwriting, it read, "They've been watching you. You're not crazy. Trust no one. Tonight at 2 a.m., wait by the back gate. I'll help you." Alicia's breath caught in her throat. For the first time since this nightmare began, a flicker of hope sparked. By nightfall, Alicia's arrest had gone viral. Hashtag #KidnapperMom was trending on every social platform. Clips of the parking lot incident racked up millions of views. Some commenters sided with her. Others demanded she be locked away forever. But outside the station, a crowd had gathered. Dozens of people, holding signs, chanting her name, demanding her release. Her sister, Naomi, stood at the front, tears streaming down her face as she shouted into a megaphone, "That's my sister. That's her baby. This is a setup. Don't let them take him." The chants grew louder, the pressure mounting. And inside his office, Captain Rhodes watched from the window, his jaw tight, his serpent emblem ring, catching the glow of the streetlights. Hours passed. Alicia barely touched the food they gave her. At exactly 1:55 a.m., her heart pounded as footsteps echoed down the hall. The cell door clicked open. The same young officer appeared, whispering, "Now. We don't have much time." Alicia hesitated. Could she trust her? Was this another trap? But the thought of Malik, alone, stolen, in the hands of those monsters, gave her courage. She followed the officer through a maze of back corridors, her breath shallow, her nerves on fire. Every shadow felt like danger. Every creak of the floor felt like betrayal. Finally, they reached the back gate. The officer handed her a key. "Go. Don't stop. And whatever happens, don't let them catch you." Alicia clutched the key, tears brimming in her eyes. "Why are you helping me?" The officer's jaw tightened. "Because I lost my niece to them, and I'll never forgive myself." Alicia slipped into the night, the cool air hitting her face like freedom. She ran. Every muscle screamed, every breath burned, but she ran like her life depended on it, because it did. Behind her, shouts rang out. Lights flashed, sirens wailed. They knew she was gone. The city stretched before her like a maze, dark alleys and neon signs blurring together. She darted between buildings, ducked behind dumpsters, her heart hammering louder than the sirens. And just when she thought she might have lost them, she turned a corner and froze. There he was, the stranger in the suit, standing calmly beneath a street lamp, Malik cradled in his arms. Her breath caught. "Give him back," she screamed, her voice cracking. The man's lips curled into a smile. "You made this harder than it needed to be, Ms. Johnson, but it ends tonight." Alicia stepped forward, her fists clenched, her entire body trembling with rage. "That's my son. You'll have to kill me before you take him." The man's eyes glittered coldly. "If that's what it takes." From the shadows, black SUVs rolled in. Men in suits stepped out, each bearing the serpent emblem. Alicia was surrounded, outnumbered. Malik cried in the stranger's arms, reaching out toward his mother. Her heart shattered. And then, suddenly, headlights cut through the night. Tires screeched. A van barreled into the street, doors flying open. Naomi's voice screamed from inside. "Alicia, get in." Alicia's legs moved before her mind could catch up. She sprinted toward the van, her sister's hand reaching out desperately. But behind her, the men in suits gave chase. Guns raised, orders shouted. The stranger's voice boomed. "Don't let her escape. She belongs to us." Bullets shattered the night. Glass rained down. Tires screeched again. Alicia dove into the van, Naomi pulling her inside, the doors slamming shut. The engine roared, the city flashing past in a blur of chaos and terror. But as Alicia clutched her sister, gasping for air, her eyes locked on the one thing she couldn't forget. Malik, still in the stranger's arms. Still out there, and the serpent's shadow growing darker every second. The van tore through the city like a hunted animal. Naomi gripped the wheel, her knuckles white, while Alicia sobbed in the passenger seat. "They have him," Alicia whispered, her voice hoarse. "They have Malik." Naomi's eyes burned. "Then we'll take him back. I don't care who they are." The sisters drove all night, hiding in back alleys, switching vehicles with the help of friends, slipping beneath the radar. But Alicia knew one thing. They couldn't keep running forever. The Serpent Society wasn't just powerful. They owned the courts. They owned the cops. They owned the narrative. To win, Alicia needed proof. She needed to tear the mask off the monster in public. With Naomi's help, Alicia reached out to an investigative journalist, Marcus Hale, a man known for exposing corruption. When Alicia told her story, Marcus didn't laugh, didn't doubt, didn't dismiss. Instead, he leaned forward, voice low. "You're not the first mother to tell me this, but you might be the first one still alive to fight back." He pulled out a folder. Inside were photos, documents, testimonies. Dozens of missing children, parents silenced, cases buried, and the same serpent emblem on every single page. Alicia's stomach churned. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't alone. She was up against a machine. Weeks later, Alicia finally had her day in court. Her wrists still bore the scars of the handcuffs. Her heart still ached with Malik's absence, but her eyes burned with fire. The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled every seat. The story had gone national. The stranger, dressed in his immaculate suit, sat smugly at the opposite table. Malik was absent, in protective care, the court claimed. Captain Rhodes sat behind him like a bodyguard, serpent ring gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The judge banged the gavel. This custody hearing will determine rightful parentage of the child in question. Alicia stood. Her voice shook, but her words carried like thunder. "That child is mine. I carried him for 9 months. I gave birth to him, and I will not let you erase me." The crowd erupted. Cameras clicked. But the stranger rose with a smile, waving his forged documents like a weapon. "Ladies and gentlemen, lies are easy. Proof is harder. And I have it." The courtroom buzzed. Alicia's lawyer demanded a DNA test. The court reluctantly agreed. Swabs were taken. Blood samples collected. The results promised to end the nightmare. But when the envelope was opened, the courtroom gasped. The judge read aloud, "The child's DNA does not match Alicia Johnson." Alicia's world shattered. She staggered back, tears spilling. No, that's not possible." The stranger smirked, victory glinting in his eyes. But then, Marcus Hale stood from the gallery, holding a manila folder. "Your Honor, I have evidence these results were tampered with." The judge's gavel slammed. Order in the court. Marcus continued, his voice booming. "This society has been stealing children for years, substituting DNA results, buying officials, silencing families, and I can prove it." Gasps filled the room. The serpent's shadow was crumbling. Screens lit up in the courtroom as Marcus played hidden camera footage. Captain Rhodes in the secret meeting. The stranger signing documents with stacks of cash on the table. Conversations about expanding the network, about delivering children to the highest bidder. The serpent emblem everywhere. The crowd erupted in horror. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras flashed like lightning. The judge's face paled. The Serpent Society was no longer a whisper. It was exposed. And for the first time, the stranger's smug smile cracked. But just as victory seemed close, a new twist dropped like a bomb. The stranger rose, his voice shaking but still sharp. "You think you've won? You think this child belongs to her?" He pointed at Alicia. That boy isn't even hers by blood. He was never supposed to be hers. She was only ever surrogate. The room froze. Alicia's knees buckled. What were you saying? The stranger smirked again, but this time his words dripped poison. The child you love isn't yours. He was created for us, and we'll take him back. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Alicia sobbed, clutching her chest, but Marcus Hale shouted above the noise. Even if that were true, he is hers. She raised him. She nurtured him. Blood does not erase love. The crowd roared with applause. The judge silenced the courtroom with a booming gavel. Enough! This court has seen more than enough evidence of corruption, tampering, and criminal activity. Effective immediately, custody is granted to Alicia Johnson, and an investigation into the so-called society begins at once. Alicia collapsed into Naomi's arms, sobbing with relief. The stranger lunged, shouting, "You can't do this. He's ours." But marshals tackled him to the ground, prying the serpent ring from his hand. For the first time, Alicia felt the chains of fear break. But the victory was fragile, because Malik was still missing. Days later, Alicia stood in a safe house, her heart racing. The authorities had raided several serpent compounds. Children were rescued, names were exposed, and then a knock at the door. 2 agents stepped inside. In their arms, Malik, her baby, her son. Alicia's knees gave out as she screamed his name, rushing forward, scooping him into her arms. His tiny fingers grabbed her face, his cries turning into giggles as he nestled into her chest. For the first time in weeks, Alicia felt whole. Naomi wept beside her. Marcus watched with a rare smile. The nightmare wasn't over. The Serpent Society was vast. There would be more battles, more families broken, more children stolen. But Alicia had won this war, and she would never stop fighting. The screen fades to black. Narrator's voice. They pointed a gun at a black mother and accused her of stealing her own baby. They mocked her, arrested her, tried to erase her truth, but she refused to break. She fought, exposed corruption, and reclaimed not just her child, but the voices of countless families silenced by power. This is not just a story of survival. It's a story of resistance, of love that cannot be erased. Because in the end, a mother's fight is stronger than any society's chains. Kindly support our channel. Like and subscribe for more interesting and powerful stories.